We are live and recording. So for this is on, yeah. So for all the board members, can we just do a quick mic check just to make sure that everyone on Zoom can hear? You might just need to move the mic closer to you, but we'll just go around. Roman, if you want to do a mic check real fast.
Yes.
A little bit closer.
Yes.
A little bit closer. Sorry. Okay, perfect. Lisa?
Does this work?
Is the light on?
Yes.
Okay. Is everyone in the back hearing Lisa? Okay, cool. Martin?
Okay. Hello. Good.
Okay. Chris? Check. Perfect. And then Al?
How's this? How's the volume?
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Albany City Planning Board for July. And welcome everybody. It's good to be back here in person. We have almost a full house in the room as far as we're allowed to have a full house. Thanks to all who participated through Zoom. We all have become, I guess, experts over the last year and a half. And now we're back, but we still are able to accommodate the public on Zoom. So we have people tuning in, using that facility. And along those lines, I have a special thanks to the planning staff for taking the technical work, both when we were all 100% on Zoom and also this evening, where we can bring in the public electronically. And those of you who are on Zoom, if you're in here in the room with us, you would see a whole lot of equipment that looks like we're going about ready to launch a rock concert. Here, I want to go over the procedures so everybody knows what our rules of participation are. We will first have a presentation by the applicants. And if we have not seen the project before, or if it has not been in a public meeting before, the applicant has 10 minutes to present. If the board has seen the project before in a public meeting, the applicant can truncate his or her presentation and we'll have 6 minutes. The board will then ask questions to the applicant. And after that, we will have public comments. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each, unless there is a common council member who wants to make comment. And in that case, because they represent a larger area, they will have 6 minutes to speak. After that, the planning staff will give its recommendations to the board. And after that, the applicant can clarify any issues that came up, if there was clarification needed, or if there were any issues that the board might have further questions. I want to mention to the public that those of you who are on Zoom, you must sign up now by notifying Zach. Once the meeting starts, we will not be taking any more people for comments on any of the projects. So you need to sign up right now by notifying our planning staff member, Zach Powell, that you want to speak on a particular issue. And of course, you have to tell them what the issue is. That also goes for those of you in the room here. If anybody wants to, from the public wants to speak, you need to sign up. And Aaron over here will accommodate you. And again, we ask that you sign up now. I'll introduce the planning board to you also, since we've been on Zoom for so long and you actually see the real people. Starting over on my far right is Roman Kuchera. Next to him is Glenisa Guillard, and next to her is Martin Hull, and to my right over here is Christopher Ellis, and I'm El DeSalvo, the chair. And our corporation council is being a wallflower, but you have a seat right here. This is Martha Mahoney. Okay, board, we have a couple of items on the agenda that are recommended to be consent agenda items because we have looked at these before and they're only minor issues. And I will just mention the two of them and what they are, and then we can vote to see if you want each of these to be on the consent agenda, and then we could move to take action on them. The first one is 255 through 271 Clinton Avenue. This was a project by Home Leasing in which in a mixed-use neighborhood edge area, there was a major development plan review just to construct a parking lot with 38 spaces. And we saw that project a couple of times and also in a planning board meeting back in November. The second item is 222 South Pearl Street. This is a project that first appeared on our agenda way back in July of 2019 and has been going through some discussions with the planning staff, and it is only it's basically in a mixed-use area, in the form-based community area. It's the extension of a conditional use permit approval to occupy a property for a vehicle filling station. The conditional use approval has expired, so they're requesting an extension. So I would entertain a motion to approve that these two items be on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Glenisa Guillard. Is there a second? Second by Roman Kuchera. Any discussion? Zach, has anybody indicated any interest in speaking on these?
No one has signed up to speak for these applications.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the first item is by Home Leasing, 255, 271 Clinton Avenue. And the recommendation there is to have a negative declaration on the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and also then to approve the project. May I have a motion on the seat?
So moved.
Moved by Roman Kuchera. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Glenisa Guillard. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. And then the second item is the recommended action, which is to approve the project. All those in favor, please say aye.
I've got a motion
Motion, I'm sorry.
So
Motion
moved.
first.
and second.
Okay. The motion was made by Glenisa, and the second was by Roman Kuchera.
Okay.
All those approving it, please say aye.
Wondering, what are we speaking to at the moment?
Oh,
The
the-
second item on
Is the second item on the
Okay.
parking lot, which is the approval of the parking lot. It's on page two.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Mark, I think that we put it on the consent agenda so we can vote once. and then
Yes.
All be taken care of.
Right. I agree.
Since we put it on the consent agenda, projects 1 and 2.
Mhm.
One vote approves all pieces.
Okay. Thank you for the
That's
clarification.
consent. That's why you put on the consent.
Well, the motion's on the floor, so let's just go ahead and we can approve this one.
Okay, or we can just remove the motion and just do a new motion to, or amend the motion to do the entire consent agenda. So I move to amend the motion that we vote on the entire consent agenda. Am I saying that right, Chris? He's a parliamentarian, so
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm right.
The motion is fine.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Yep, I second.
And all are in favor of the entire consent agenda, which includes the two projects?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll talk opposition. The next items on the agenda are some recommendations that we may not need to deal with tonight, and I'll turn this over to Zach Powell to give us some information as to where we go with both 25 Delaware Avenue and 191 North Pearl Street.
Great, thanks, Al. Just some other quick reminders for the room. Just for anyone who's in the room, just to remind you, there are emergency exits in the back and on the west side where you can see the exit lights. The maximum seating capacity for the room is 39 people. If it exceeds that, we will ask people to leave if it is not your case that you are presenting or speaking to. If you are yes, if you are unvaccinated and you are in the room, you would need to be masked the entire time that you are in the building as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to talk to staff in the back with Aaron and Justine, who are sitting in front of the refrigerator. So there are two items that are recommended to be removed from the agenda just because they're not in a position to be acted upon. Both these two items are 25 Delaware Avenue and 191 North Pearl Street. 25 Delaware Avenue is still trying to address some comments from the Water Department and the Division of Traffic Engineering. And 191 North Pearl Street is also still addressing some staff comments from other city departments as well. So it's just recommended for the sake of time and brevity of the meeting, since there are a number of items, just to not take action on these and move on to the public hearing items.
Okay, so we don't need to take action on that, right? We would just need to see that it's removed from the agenda.
I don't know if you necessarily need to.
You should probably take a proper motion since it's
Okay.
already printed out.
Am I allowed to speak, Zach?
That is up to the board.
Well, the reason that we're removing it is because there wasn't enough information on it. I believe we have applicant wants to speak on 191 North Pearl, so shall we leave them on the agenda?
I get it.
What information we don't have.
What? Okay. Is that up to the board?
Well, I think if there's, what's the issue with 191 Pearl, Zach?
So it's just still addressing city department comments. So it's just not in a position to be acted upon by the planning board because there's still things that the applicant needs to address with said application.
So it sounds like then there should be a conversation between you and the applicant, meeting your staff and the applicant versus there being a discussion here at this point. Am I correct in that assumption?
Correct. I mean, what the goal of this was just to remove items that have been presented to the board previously. You are familiar with both cases that are recommended to be removed. Again, for all these applications, we allow applicants to attend either in person or via Zoom. So again, for future meetings, for all applicants who are at the meeting right now, you can attend via Zoom. So your presence here is not required in person.
Okay, now, the other question I had though is that, was this communicated to the applicants before the meeting?
Yes, in an acceptance letter.
Okay.
So, we didn't receive anything.
I'm sorry, we gotta stick to the rules and you were notified. So Okay,
Go town.
So is the board wanting to act on this as an official deferral vote? Or
If we don't have enough information to move forward, then I say yes, but I also believe that there should be a conversation with the applicant at the end of this meeting, because it seems as though there may be some miscommunication, and to allow you guys as staff and the applicant to have a conversation as to what's needed and what the next steps are, so there's clarity.
Right, and agreed. And we do that as much as possible through comment letters
Yeah.
as well. So,
I just think I don't want, for me personally, I'm not just for the board, but I don't want an applicant leaving here frustrated thinking that they're not able to, even though we're not allowing them to speak here, but being able to say like they, you know, what it is, what they need. They're frustrated because they didn't get across, that wasn't communicated. That I don't think that that's helpful in the process.
yeah.
okay, so I'll entertain a motion to remove these two items from the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by second by Chris Ellis. And just further discussion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is our public hearing. And in the public hearing, we have a couple of projects to review. The first one is zoning map amendment 2009, and this includes a number of addresses on Sherman Street. The applicant is the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York. And the request is a recommendation to the Common Council for zoning map amendment to change existing property from R2 to MUCU, which is mixed use community urban. This project we saw in a workshop and is basically to expand the parking lot for the applicant's employees. We have it, who's on it?
Is the applicant present in the room? Otherwise, if you're on Zoom, just please raise your hand and I can elevate you to a panelist.
And you want to turn your microphone on, please, which is the left-handed button.
Sorry about that. My name is Deanne Grimaldi, and I'm the Director of Development and Communications. I see people in the room, I know, for the Legal Aid Society. And I'm here today with a representative from Lansing, our engineering company. So he's going to really go through the technical part of this. I will say that the Legal Aid Society, we've been that for about 3 years. We've renovated it. We've got about close to $2 million in the building now. So it's, you know, we've really tried to improve the space and expand our services. These are lots that we have, parcels that we have acquired. A couple of 3 we actually owned, and then we've acquired all of the other lots. I think the most recent was acquired last year. And they are, 3 of them form currently about 12 parking spaces of these lots. There's about 12 existing parking spaces. The rest are accommodation. We acquired out. One was a building that had to be demolished, one burned down, and we bought it and paid to have it. Remediated, thank you. But you know, the lead post-fire, and we paid for both the tear down, the demolition, as well as the cleanup on that space. One of the other lots, I'm just trying to give you a sense of what's there, right? We're not ruining pristine space, right? One is an abandoned building that was condemned that we purchased, and the other are lots that are currently housing, I think, about 7 lots. So what we've found on the lots is to give you a sense of kind of what the condition is, so you get a sense of what, you know, but this really is an improvement There's a lot of drug paraphernalia that we cleaned up. There's also dumping on the lots, and we do have cameras on the lots, and we know this and we know that. So that's kind of the existing condition of the lots. Right there, we have as of 8/9, as of August 9th, we're gonna have 65 staff in the building. And our goal is to convert the 12 existing parking lots that are on these parcels, right? So a few of them are parking lots, and convert those into 44 new spaces. And in communication, obviously, with the city for extended period, and we do have the initial design, which we can go over, which it does include, we actually bought an extra lot so that we can do water basins and some plantings. And then we're gonna be landscaping it, and we have aluminum fencing, lighting. We intend to put charging stations in. So the idea is to create a green lot that accommodates the rest of our stuff so that we can better serve neighborhood, which, as you know, is a very low income neighborhood. So that's just kind of the big picture, and then more technical questions Mike can answer for you, unless you have any questions for me.
Did you want to go through the presentation or?
Mike's gonna go through that,
Okay.
because that's a little bit, that's out of my paper, sorry.
Hi, I'm Mike Robertson from Lansing Engineering. I'm here for Scott Lansing, who's could not make it tonight. Obviously, with the Legal Aid Society.
Could you put the microphone close to you so people on Zoom could hear you?
The better? So obviously tonight, so we're here regarding the amendment to the zoning map, which encompasses 77 to 85 Sherman Street. Slide. Currently zoned R2 residential. The map proposing to amend it to mixed use community urban. And the reason is concern we want continuous parking facility to service the Legal Aid Society. Changing the zoning, parking as an accessory use for the senior zone. Next slide. This is a slide of the existing conditions from the survey. As Deanna said, most of the 6 lots, they've utilized 3 of them for the small parking area currently. The other 2 are vacant, and the last one, there is 1 structure that's left. This is just an overall aerial showing you the location. The proposed zoning amendment parcels are located directly behind 95 Central Ave, where Legal Aid is located. So this shows on the left-hand side the current zoning map, and on the right side is the proposed zoning. The 6 parcels being highlighted in red, being changed to MUC.
Yeah, I think I went over this, yeah. I will say that we actually have more hires, so the number is gonna be total will be 65 people. And then we also intend to allow for clients, so as you can see, we don't really, we'll just kind of be covering, our plan is to kind of do some rotation and try to accommodate clients as well, so. I mean, this is pretty much what I covered, unless you have other questions.
Questions by the board?
Can you go back to, or Zach maybe, the slide where it showed yeah, that one. So and it's just escaping me, I'm pretty sure this was already asked or already answered. So where they have in blue, I'm looking at the right-hand side. That zone right next to where they have in red where they want to expand the zone, is that an expansion? It is an expansion, okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Other questions?
Have you developed a design for the lot?
Would you turn your mic on?
Yes, if we go forward in the slide,
Oh.
there's the last slide. Shows a site plan for the proposed overall parking lot. So we've already gone through a full design and site plan, as well as a full slope report. Anticipation.
Yeah, so this will include the gate, fence.
Correct. The frontage on Sherman Street will have a aluminum style fencing, decorative iron-like. Rear of the lot, there's a retaining wall in the back of the lot, which will have obviously a guide rail across the edge of the parking area with a 6-foot vinyl opaque colored fence for privacy between the parking area and adjacent parcels.
In the wintertime, you have to plow. Where would the snow go? Without bending up the fence, like pushing it into the.
We can utilize the southern end of the parcel. There's a small green area down there where the snow can be pushed in that direction and stored there.
Also, what we currently do is we actually have trucks because it's an issue now, so we actually have trucks. We actually put the snow and carry snow away, which we've done in the existing lot before. So, and that's just additional.
Further questions? Is there anyone who wants to speak on this from the public?
No one signed up ahead of time. I do have a chat message. So again, I think I'm going to point no one signed up to speak.
Okay, then, Zach, do you have any recommendations beyond what we have here in front of us?
Yeah, so this is an application that's going to be going before both Common Council for the zoning map amendment, as well as coming back to the planning board, not only for conditional use permit review, but also major development plan review. This application is somewhat contingent upon another text amendment that was brought forward before the planning board that would allow principal parking lots or primary parking lots as a conditionally permitted use within mixed-use community urban zoning districts. That legislation was originally put forward as part of the cap rep expansion on North Pearl Street. But this was also identified as a potential hindrance for the construction of this parking lot as well. So that text amendment will be reviewed simultaneously with the Common Council reviewing this proposed map amendment. The recommended action for tonight is a favorable recommendation to the Common Council, and also to have the planning board declare itself lead agency, since seeker needs to be addressed before any formal action takes place, whereas a recommendation is not an action.
Does the board have any questions to the staff side?
Zach, is the usual tree planting required for a parking lot as well as for a building?
Yep, it's there's certain thresholds within the landscaping standards, but if a new building is constructed, if a certain amount of money is put into the site to improve it that meets or exceeds 50% of the current assessed value, believe demolition as well, but there are a few triggers for those landscaping requirements, but this would meet it.
And they are included in the plan.
Further questions? Okay, recommended action on the State Environmental Quality Review Act is to declare the planning board as lead agency. Do I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Roland Kuchera, seconded by Christopher Ellis. Any discussion? All those in favor then, please say aye. Or the seeker.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. The second recommended action is for a favorable recommendation to the Albany Common Council for the zoning change. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Roland Kuchera, seconded by Christopher Ellis. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we're off the ground before the winter sets in.
We're hoping.
Next item on the agenda is 91, 93, and 95 Clinton Street. The applicant is Kerwin Curtin. And the proposal in this townhouse district is both a conditional use permit review as well as a zoning map amendment. The proposal is to occupy a 1,300 square foot ground floor on the property at 91 Clinton Street as a restaurant. And the amendment to the zoning map would be to change the zoning classification of the 91, 93, and 95 Clinton Street from the townhouse to the mixed-use urban neighborhood edge. This is we did discuss this at the planning board workshop, but this is the first time that we have seen this in our public meeting. Is the applicant here?
I don't believe so, but it looks like the applicant's on Zoom. And just while we have this moment, Aaron or Ghislaine, can we just maybe up the speakers, just because I think some people on Zoom are having a difficult time hearing. I think it's a little bit easier given that the lawnmower has stopped, thankfully. I think, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
And please look at me. You've got to have the microphone this close, not here. You got to be here. It's a directional mic. So make believe you're going to eat the microphone. That'll help everybody here on Zoom.
So Kerwin and Natalie, I think you should be able to mute yourselves. Let me know if you need anyone else to be elevated to a panelist.
Good afternoon. Can we add my brother, please, Karen Curtin? He is the chef for the proposed restaurant.
Kerwin and Natalie, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi, are you hearing me?
Can you hear me?
Natalie, it looks like you're speaking, but it's not coming through on our end. Bear with
Okay.
me, I'm just gonna figure this out one sec.
Sure, one second.
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah,
Oh,
Natalie,
okay.
it's All right, now it's showing like it's lighting up, but it looks like the audio's not working on your end.
Okay.
It's also not working. Can you guys hear me? I can hear you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can hear each other. They just they can't hear us.
So it looks like it's just us in the room who cannot hear the applicant. So apologies on that. I'm gonna try and fix that. So just bear with me one sec.
Sure, no problem.
As simple as just being muted.
Yeah, it's still not working on our end. Now link going. Yeah, okay. Still not working on that end. I'm gonna try and hear this last bear with me just one second.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Carmen.
Okay. So Natalie, would you like to take the lead?
Um, sure. I mean, I think you should speak to the like the overall, what your overall intention
Can hear
is.
you
for-
now.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thank you everyone for your patience. So
If you could start in the beginning, I don't know how much you were talking while we couldn't hear you. So.
Hello?
hi there.
Hi, good day. My name is Kerwin Curtin. I noticed my brother is also listed as Kerwin. Chef Kerwin Curtin. So what we're proposing here is a conditional use permit to convert the first floor of this mixed use property into a restaurant, as well as a zoning map amendment to help bring back business to the south end. Just to introduce myself, I'm a small business owner, a member of the NSBA Leadership Council, along with my brother, Kerwin Curtin, Chef Kerwin Curtin. We're embarking on this business venture with my queen, my life partner, Erin. And we're under the leadership and direction of Miss Natalie Seagriff, the owner of Seagriff Design Studio out there in Albany. She is our architect. So I believe this amendment is necessary to redevelop, renovate, and or remodel the edge parcels into mixed use properties in this economically deprived area of the South End. I'm hoping to gain support from the board for this business endeavor. This amendment consists of 3 key vision components of the Albany 2030 plan, which is safety, livability, and neighborhoods, vibrant urban centers, and a prosperous economy. So our intent is to indeed bring back business to this area. And part of that, in order to reach that goal, we would need this zoning map amendment. I'm not entirely sure what is required of me beyond my introduction for now, because I am new to this process. So I'm hoping that you guys can kind of guide me on what is required and what is needed.
Yeah, so Kerwin, you had submitted a PowerPoint presentation. So essentially your role right now, you or some member of your team is just to present that PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to be operating it, so feel free to just tell me to progress or go back a slide through this wherever relevant. If you don't feel like you need a slide, feel free to skip it. We have a timer set for 10 minutes. We're about 8 minutes in right now. So I'll let you know when the 10 minutes has elapsed. Otherwise, that's kind of up to you. And then after that point, the board will ask any questions that they may have. And then if we have any members of the public here to speak on the topic, which we do have one speaker signed up, then they will provide testimony and you can provide a rebuttal to those comments.
Understood. So based on the current page, we're looking to, the zone is currently zoned as residential town hall RT. We're looking to change it to mixed use neighborhood edge. So on the right, we see the current zoning. On the left, we see the picture of the erected structure, which is 91 Clinton Street. We can move to the next slide. So these are different angles, left view, right view, and the front view of the property. I'm not sure if Natalie would like to speak on this.
Yeah, I mean, currently on the first floor, there's retail space, or was retail space at one point. And, you know, there's a kind of addition that was put on at some unknown point in time. So we would be basically just taking over that footprint of the existing retail space, obviously upgrading, and then utilizing that addition, reskinning that addition so that it's you know, more visually appealing, and you know, hopefully bring back some economy into the area. 93 and 95 are currently vacant properties, and the RT zoning limits a lot, you know, what can happen on those properties. So in terms of economic development. So this is the site plan just showing the existing footprint of 91 Clinton Street. You know, we're looking to add an accessible ramp to the main entrance of the first floor. That would go into the restaurant. The second floor is currently an apartment and it would remain that way. We would be renovating it though and upgrading it. And this is just a concept floor plan for the existing space. You know, dining area, serving bar just for the waiters to prepare drinks, and then an accessible water closet and both unisex water closets, and then the kitchen space. We would be currently on the, you know, right next to the ramp, there's, you know, a steel door that provides access to the basement from the street. We would be upgrading that to a newer Bilco door for basement access.
All right, so our hours of operation essentially will be Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We anticipate we'll have about 15 employees. That's a low end assumption. I think it'll be slightly higher. Our closest competitors are the Ken Ballroom, which is essentially an event and catering space. Based on recent conversations we've had with Common Council member, the Honorable Derek Johnson, certain issues and concerns of the community were raised. So some of this stuff with respect to event space renting will have to be amended. But our closest competitors Kenmore Ball. The city of Albany will require the conditional use permits, hence this application. Anticipated noise consistent with a restaurant setting and odors commonly. Does the site receive common deliveries? We anticipate 1 to 2 deliveries daily, of course, depending on service demands. I'm not sure if Karen would like to speak on the restaurant.
I'm not sure if anyone can see me, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just to add on to what Kerwin said, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Karen Curtin. I will be the executive chef of Curtin Catering, and I'm currently a member of the Small Business Administration as well, a member of the National North American Board of Personal Chefs. And once again, to add on to what Kerwin said, what we want to do is to basically open a business center for our family here in Albany. And my part as being a private chef wanting to open a catering company, I believe that me as a French trained chef who is of West Indian descent, I believe it will bring a very unique flavor and beacon to the neighborhood itself. And my hope is that from this one project here that will rejuvenate the neighborhood, my hope is that there will be a sort of a cascade effect in the neighborhood itself, not just with my business, but multiple new businesses as well.
Well said.
As far as the details of my menu and my restaurant itself, we are aiming to open what would be known as a cater by design concept. In addition to the restaurant itself, I aim to have a catering protocol where people in the neighborhood or clients in general can come to me and explain to me what sort of food they want outside of my normal menu and what sort of atmosphere and environment they want for their catering events. And I would like for that to be a unique sort of angle from food in the area as well, versus you can go to a restaurant, you can order on the menu, but there's nowhere really yet that someone can really sit down with the chef and really tell the chef one-on-one exactly what they want. And that's really what I want to do.
Zach, next slide, please. All right, so currently the area is zoned as RT, and we are looking to change the zone into neighborhood end use to do exactly like we said, help bring back the economics to this area. So the proposed zoning amendment will change 91, 93, and 95 Clinton Streets from RT to mixed use neighborhood edge. This amendment is needed to redevelop and renovate more than 4,500 square feet of commercial space. So this is essentially what we spoke on earlier. This is just our reasoning for why this amendment is needed for the community.
That's just 10 minutes for the board. I don't know if you'd like to extend time for the applicant to speak.
Right, have it continue.
Yes. I believe we're coming down back.
Okay, well, we'll continue, but if you can move through it very quickly.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said we'll allow you to continue because you went over your time, but we want to hear the rest of it. But please move through it quickly.
You see me.
The board can feel free to ask any questions needed. Essentially the necessities listed here are what we kind of reviewed earlier. I think one great thing to take away, it is consistent with Albany's 2030 plan. And providing approval and renovation, it will increase the city's tax base as well as provide numerous jobs for community members and enhance the conditions, the living conditions for the South End.
Thank you. Board members, questions to the applicant? I have a couple. The retail space that we referred to that was there before, how long has it been vacant, or has the retail space continued?
The building has been vacant since February of this year, so the retail space is no longer there.
But there was the retail space there as of February?
It was, and the tenant decided to move out, and the space is currently unoccupied, correct, pending approval.
So I think I know where you're going with this, Al. So that, does that mean that they're be grandfathered into that space because it's been less than a year that's been vacant?
I think exactly correct us on this, but I believe that we still have to review this as conditional use, that part of it, because it's a change of use, but I'm not sure. Chad?
Yeah, so conditional use permits are granted by operator. So when there's a change, they need to get another conditional use permit. So this is located in a residential townhouse zoning district. So where there is existing ground floor retail, and that there was modifications made to the building prior to January 1st of 2015, applicants are able to have a certain set of uses, including offices and personal business service as of right. But for bars or taverns, that is a conditional use.
Okay, but I think my question is because they're looking for a zoning map amendment on top of the conditional use permit. Would they need the zoning map amendment since it already has that prior use and it hasn't been a year since that prior use has been not functioning in that area, in that space? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it sounds like you know where I'm going.
Yeah, you're saying that right. I'm going to go back a couple of slides because I think this will help explain it. So this is a multi-phase kind of project or set of projects where the applicant's not only looking to operate a bar and restaurant out of 91 Clinton Street, but they're also looking to construct new buildings at 93 and 95 Clinton Street, including multifamily dwellings. And so multifamily dwellings are not permitted as a use within the residential townhouse zoning district. So they're looking to amend the zoning for these properties so that they can eventually construct the multifamily housing at 93 and 95 Clinton Street. That would also change the classification for restaurants to make that a permitted use as opposed to a conditionally permitted use. When we met with the applicant, we recommended that they reach out to the property owners for all four corners because either currently in existing buildings or previously there were examples of ground floor commercial retail on all four corners. One site, the building has been demolished and is currently used as a community garden. But it seemed like a good opportunity to include all those properties so it was not an instance of spot zoning. But it could also provide for more opportunities for other applicants going forward as well. The applicant was not able to reach out to the property owners at this time. So that's why in the memo, it's recommended that when this goes before the Common Council, that they work to include those properties to better address shared issues with neighboring property owners as well.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the zoning map, show me right where the proposed changes are, because I can't.
Yeah,
You're talking about that, right in the middle of the RT then.
yeah, bear with me. I'm just going to turn on the annotation feature just so that the people on Zoom are seeing what I'm pointing at. So this is 91 Clinton Street as well. And then that's the current zoning right there. It's right in the middle of an RT zoning district as well. You know, this is again an instance where it's a zoning map amendment proposed within, you know, it's fairly centralized within an existing zone. So again, to avoid spot zoning, looking to find opportunities to expand the zoning change to more properties. So as you can see on the bottom right, this is what they're proposing for the zoning change with these properties right here. But we also recommended that they potentially look at a zoning change for the other properties on the corner as well, to change that to mixed use neighborhood edge.
Okay, go on.
Right, so, and heading east in the RT, is there similar type uses, you know, former mixed use or no?
Not as much. I mean, it's kind of like the traditional kind of corner store type of architecture and previous uses that were at those sites. Again, the lot that is on the southeast corner right here, that building was demolished and is currently used as a community garden, which the current property owner for that site has expressed, you know, that they want to continue to use that as a community garden, and this zoning map amendment wouldn't change the permissiveness of it being used as a community garden. It's just, you know, in the event that maybe the site is not deemed to be the best location for a community garden, that it could have the potential to have a combination of residential and commercial uses.
Okay, so the recommendation about adding the additional parcels around the corner is really just to facilitate more development in an area which resembles what was done there in the past, correct?
Yeah, and trying to address a shared issue, so it's less onerous, you know, going forward for other applicants similar to Kerwin as well, if they do want to open up something like an office or a personal business service, trying to make that easier.
Thank you.
I would like to ask the applicants though, you have been talking with the planning staff for a while, and the planning staff has recommended strongly that you work to try to get those other parcels into a proposed zoning change. What is preventing you from doing that?
Based on the feedback we got from Mr. Derek Johnson, some members of the community are slightly apprehensive to the zoning change because of the fear for one, violence in the area, and there is a concern for businesses erecting that the community does not want present. So they're just not supportive of the change at this moment, but it does not
they're
mean
not supportive of the change of the zoning you're proposing, or they're not supportive of the change of the larger zoning area.
correct. They're not supporting of changes of any property that is not owned by myself. So a lot of the other owners are just not as receptive. Currently, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't change or may not change in the future, but currently they're just not as willing to accept the zoning amendment for their properties.
The chef had mentioned doing catering by design. If you have customers who want to have something catered, where would you do it? You were talking about how you would customize.
Yes, basically the idea for cater by design is within those conversations of menu, we would discuss location as well. In my experience, 9 out of 10 catering events, the client tends to have somewhere in mind where they want to be, whether it would be home or somewhere they would rent out, in addition to the option of having a sort of in-house space for tastings and small gatherings as well.
Thank you.
Well,
Now, are you asking if they prepare food on site or off site?
Well, I was.
prepare on site.
They would prepare on site. I wanted just to see if there was going to be a possibility of having, large parties in the restaurant.
Well, that would be depending on the capacity limits of the city, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the event it's something, grand, some sort of a baby shower or perhaps a wedding, those things we tend to find locations for. And I would prepare the food on location and following proper handling protocols, transfer it to location and finish it up there, present it there.
Have you met with the community association?
Can you hear me, sir? You're breaking up on me a little bit here.
I said, have you met with the community association in the area?
So I've had the opportunity, sorry, Karen, I've had the opportunity to speak with the president of the homeowners association. My apologies, I forgot her name at the moment. Joanne Morton. So Joanne and I did speak. We have not had the opportunity to meet in person, but I do plan to attend their August meeting. She also mentioned that she could not make this meeting because the association does have a meeting at the same time as the planning board. But we do intend to engage more with the community and work with Joanne to come up with the best plan for the area.
Further questions by the board?
So when would the common council be acting on our recommendation?
So that's dependent on when the council, wants to act on it. The typical process for anyone who just needs a refresher, has not heard this before, is the planning board would make a recommendation that gets forwarded to the common council. That's usually introduced as a resolution and then referred to the Planning, Land Use, and Economic Development Committee. That committee then reviews said application. And then once they've, if they approve it to move forward to a vote, then that would go to a full council vote. Some of that is dependent upon support from Councilmember Johnson because usually the resolutions to introduce a zoning map amendment are done by the council member for the ward in which the zoning map amendment is located. So some of that is just dependent on timing. A lot of times when we submit amendment applications to the council, some of it's just dependent on when the sponsor has time to introduce that.
Okay, so it's possible that the applicant will have some time to meet with the community as well as talk with the neighbors to address the zoning change being favorable. Okay.
Yeah, and that's at the common council's, pleasure essentially on when they would like to review said application.
Further questions? Further questions? Okay, we will have public comment now. And again, I remind the public you have 3 minutes each. And Zach will momentarily explain to you how that will work. And how you will know when your time is close to being up. And for the community who might speak, I again would urge you to make your points succinctly, and if you have points that were made by somebody else, just mention that you agree with that other person, so you have more time to express your opinions on maybe other points that you might have. So are there anybody from the community who would like to speak first? Anybody from the room?
The only person that I know of that signed up is Councilmember Derek Johnson. For Councilmember Johnson and anyone in the room, you can just approach the speakers area, which is the table right in front of the gallery, and you can use the mic. I'm going to put a timer on the screen. Council members have 6 minutes since they represent their constituents. And since there are many more constituents, there are many voices and opinions and thoughts to be conveyed. Other members of the public who are attending, who are not a common council member, get 3 minutes to speak. And council member, just feel free to let me know whenever you're ready to speak.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to the chair.
Councilman, so that the people on Zoom, if you can push the microphone close to you and really get it close like this.
Gotcha.
Okay.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the chair and apologize it took me so long to get out here. But tonight I come to speak not against, first of all, I want to say thank you to the applicant for even considering the second vote. So, and I wouldn't say that the community is against. I think the community hasn't had an opportunity to hear this presentation. When I had a chance to talk to them, I thought I heard someone that had a plan. They had, it was clearly brought out. And I think that if our community, the neighborhood association, gets a chance to hear that, maybe they will be a little bit warmer to the ideal of having catering involved in our neighborhood. I think we were excited to hear about the restaurant coming to the neighborhood. But when you hear about catering halls and, a lot of what we're dealing with in our community right now, in the city is it's just something to make you say, real quick. Like I said, no one had a chance to talk to the applicant in detail. No one was presented with any type of information to make up to ease their discomfort. So I think, and my question I was just going to say is, I think that if we have applicants that have been dealing with planning for this long, they've had enough time, and the community should be presented with this information before a decision is made on zoning, because the decisions that are made here, the people in the community have to live with, and the positives and the negatives. So I wanted to come here and just make sure that it was on record that the community did I have been getting calls about their concerns, but after talking to the gentleman, I felt a little bit more at ease about the restaurant part, and I just think that I encourage him to attend as many neighborhood association meetings as he could, so that people can understand who he is, what this project is fully about, and the potential. And like I said, we welcome businesses to consider the second ward, because it's been a long time since we had that type of action. So I didn't want to say much. I just wanted to make sure that our community was represented at this meeting, because it could be a big thing, a restaurant in the neighborhood. Some of the things that Chef was talking about, I'm familiar with. We do have dollar chefs all over the United States, and it would be exciting to have one in our own community. So I look forward to hearing more about their business endeavor, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there other people who would like to speak?
Aaron, was there anyone else on the list? Okay. No one else had signed up ahead of time to speak.
Okay. I would mention that I thought the council member brought up a good point, since there hasn't been an opportunity for the applicants to have some detailed discussions with the community association. And I'm wondering what the board might think about deferring this action until our next meeting. I'd open it up for any comment on that.
Which action are you thinking deferring?
The
The zoning?
approval of the recommendation of positive approval of zoning and the conditional use. The one I believe we can act on tonight would simply be declare us for the State Environmental Quality Review Act as lead agency. Any thoughts?
I'm kind of leaning toward what the planning staff has recommended regarding the seeker as well as the zoning recommendation to the common council, inclusive of the other parcels as a, you know, if it can be considered that common council may not act on this for a period of time, which will allow the applicant to meet with the community and, you know, maybe bring more folks on board. It's not, we're not limiting the applicant's requests. We're just trying to be inclusive of a few other parcels which seem to be reasonable. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Okay, I agree. That's the approach. Good balance.
Any thoughts? Chris?
Ultimately, to the councilman's point about the conversation, it actually ends in his court, where the changes go to common council for complete ratification. I think that it seems like all parties have at least opened the lines of communication and seem willing to speak to each other, which is sometimes the most difficult piece that we've seen in our journey here on the planning board. I don't necessarily think the board, at least I don't want to get into the way of something that has a very old school feel, old school neighborhood feel that could be good, but we certainly cannot minimize the concern of the community that the councilman mentioned, seeing as how our mayor actually declared a state of emergency here in the last 72, 48 hours. So we can proceed, and we are placing in the hands of our elected officials on the common council final authority, but from a planning perspective, I'm okay with the recommendations before by the planning staff.
So what I'm hearing then is to move forward on the secret and to move forward on the recommendation for zoning change, but not to move forward right now on the conditional use. Am I correct in that?
Those are the recommendations of the staff. And I concur.
So I will entertain a motion then for the board to declare ourselves as the lead agency for a seeker.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Martin Hall and seconded by Christopher Ellis. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. And I would then entertain a motion for the ZMA 0010, which is a favorable recommendation to allow the zoning change for the properties with the following advisory note to the common council, which I will read for the record. The applicant should work with the common council to incorporate 89 and 94 Clinton Street and 117 4th Avenue as part of the zoning map amendment to address shared issues among those properties that have or have had a history of ground floor commercial use. We have a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Christopher Ellis.
Second.
Seconded by Roland Kuchera. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. And we would then encourage the the applicants and the town council member to help facilitate some discussions, and we will then entertain the conditional use proposal probably down the line. Okay, that public hearing agenda is complete. We'll go into the public meeting agenda now. For the first item on the agenda is 66 State Street. The applicant is Redburn Development, and this is a major development plan review for the conversion of about 21,000 square feet of office space into 27 dwelling units. This is a project we did see at our workshop. And to orient you, these are two buildings immediately to the east, State Street, sort of down the hill. And it was the old UHY building. Okay, do we have anybody to speak on that? I see there they are.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Manchero. I'm with my colleague Charlie Beck. We are here on behalf of the applicant, 66 State Street Associates LLC, which is an entity owned by Redburn Development. We are both on the development team for Redburn. We're here tonight for a proposed project at 66 State Street, which will be a conversion of the upper floors in the existing building to 27 apartments. And then the existing first floor is commercial space, which is vacant. We'll do some minor improvements there and use that to a new town. There's our project location. You see it's actually two buildings in that orange box that were combined into one. The building underwent a renovation in 1985. They combined two buildings from the inside the building, the seamless transition on each floor. We're snuck in between the Fairfield Inn on the right, and then to the left of us is 60 State, which is a wedding venue. They also have some luxury lofts around the back of 60 State. Some conditions, so I mentioned the property is currently vacant. It's been vacant for about 10 years. It was formerly the home of the UKY accounting firm. I believe they vacated in 2011. That date, we're getting a mixed story, somewhere around 10 years. We did engineering reports that determined existing water and sewer services have the capacity to serve a proposed use. Because this is a lot line building, we have no changes planned for the actual site. It's right on State Street, and our building is the whole site. 30,000 foot view of our proposed site plan. Like I said, it's a lot line building. I highlighted 3 entrances there for you. The one at the very top would be a combined entrance for residential and commercial. The one just to the right of that will be dedicated to just the commercial user. And then the rear entrance off of Morton Street, which would be again a shared entrance for residents and commercial users. Look at the outside picture on the left is the front of both buildings, or one building. No major changes to the exterior elevations. All the windows will remain. They're in great shape. That gold historic door there on the bottom left will remain. The only change we may make here is if you look on the bottom right, the left picture, the glass block curved window right there. We may replace that with actual storefront glass to increase the visibility into the commercial space, increase that walkability of the city, and give the more storefront presence around State Street. The middle picture is the back of the right building. You can follow along with that. Again, no major changes. We'll touch up the paint there, take those bars off the window on the street level, and replace the doors and replace any light fixtures. Far right picture is the back of the left building. Again, all the windows will stay. We'll repaint the bottom there, take down that boarding that's covering up the wall, replace the door, any light fixtures, and all of that. I'll walk you through the floor plans. This is the first floor starting from the left, which is the State Street side. There's that bottom entrance, which goes to a corridor next to the stairs for residents, and also connects to the commercial space on top. The top entrance, like I said, is dedicated just to the commercial user. So everything light purple there is commercial space. The gold is actually a 4-story atrium that was built. It's got a beautiful glass roof and there's a ton of light into the building. That can be used by the commercial user, which we haven't identified yet. We've had some early discussions, but no one signed on yet. And if you move to the back, off the rear entrance, we'll have a small lobby with some not shown there. We'll have the mail and package room for our residents. There are bathrooms there for the commercial user, as well as our elevator and second stair tower. And then off of that lobby, we do have one unit on the ground floor, unit 1A, which is the one bedroom. Moving down to the lower level, we're calling it, we take the back stair down, pull the elevator and come to the left, have a tenant amenity, which will likely be a small gym, as well as the trash room for all of our residents. And then the orange is actually already existing commercial space that was used by the previous tenant. We'll do some minor improvements, replace light fixtures, throw some paint on, replace the carpet, and then move that to a new tenant. The top purple is the unfinished basement part of the building. That's the main basement for all our mechanicals are, all our utility services. Floors 2 through 4 all stack all the way up. They are mostly identical. There are 9 apartments on each floor, with the exception of the 4th floor. The bottom right shown as unit 2A. So unit 4A on the 4th floor does not exist. The roof level changes. On the 4th floor, that unit is just roof. It's a mix of 1, 2s, and the 1 studio in the top right corner. This only shows a schematic block study, but we've reached the point in our design where we have a permit level drawings. We have all the bedrooms, kitchens, and bathrooms all laid out already. They're actually much further along the design process than this drawing shows. Again, you can see the atrium that goes all the way up. We have units right off the atrium. It's an incredible glass roof that pitches down towards the south. And that's a ton of light into the building. And I don't believe I included the roof plan in this presentation, but that front stair goes all the way up to the roof.
Can you go just real quick, on that plan, where is the atrium? Is it the pink? Oh, it's there.
Yep.
What's the little pink one?
That's just a mechanical shaft.
What?
Mechanical shaft.
Oh,
Or a mechanical. It's actually, it exists as a second elevator in the building, so we'll be demoing that and only using the one elevator in the rear. So that front stair goes all the way to the roof, and we'll actually have a small roof deck up there for our residents to enjoy all the beautiful views of State Street. Some more information on the project for you. Anticipated project schedule. Maybe August 2021. I don't think we're going to start in the next 4 days here. We'll move fast on this one. It'll be done by next spring, April 22. Project funding sources. This is a historic building. So we'll utilize historic tax credits. And also, once complete, we intend to apply for the 45-day tax abatement off by the city. Like I said, there are 27 total units. This is the breakdown there: 15 one-bedrooms, 9 two-bedrooms, and 3 studios. Our average rent for this project is right around $1,200. We are going to offer our all-in living, which is one payment for all the utilities. I believe with this project, it's an extra $185. They really like the heat, the electric, the water, everything is in one payment. Parking, we are in the MU-D2 district, so parking is not required. But obviously, if we're going to have 30+ people living in the building, we want to have a solution for parking. So the Green Hudson Garage is right 1 block south of our project site. We anticipate most of our residents to buy a parking pass for the Green Hudson Garage. And also, if you're ever downtown on the weekend or evening, street parking is actually pretty easy to find. So we think we have plenty of parking here for this project. Amenities, I mentioned small gym and the rooftop deck. In commercial space, as I said, the 10,000 square feet, existing commercial on the first floor will be retained, minor improvements, paint, new carpet, light fixtures. And we don't have a user identified yet. We've had early conversations, and it'll likely be an office. It's subdividable, so if someone wanted to take just the front for retail use and the back for the office, and lots of users are available better. I believe that concludes the presentation. I'll just wrap it up by saying we are happy to be doing working downtown once again. And this is another effort to accomplish our shared goal of revitalizing downtown. I can answer any questions.
Roy, questions?
Sure. I noticed that a couple of the units don't have exterior windows. And then I know there was a tour. Is that correct? Check question.
So at this project, I believe we have 2 on each floor, 2 on the top and the middle there, that will have windows onto the corridor that catch light from the atrium. So you will have some sort of natural light. And obviously the green on the bottom there has units, windows right onto the atrium. And then, we have units like that across other properties, Kenmore Building in downtown, the Nick at 16 Sheridan. And we have found that residents, don't mind, it's, as long as you get some light in there. It's to account for the fresh air component. We have systems that we use to fresh air into the building every 2 hours. It's conditioned fresh air. So no matter where you are in the building, you're still getting fresh air, conditioned fresh air into your apartment. But we found if we keep it down to a small number, maybe it's a nurse who works a night shift, and doesn't get kind of light to her apartment, or any other person who just doesn't really need light. And also, these units without windows tend to rent at a lower rate, or a lower price point. And that allows us to increase the range of residents to the broader section.
Thank you.
I think Martin asked about one of the units, but I couldn't quite hear everything you said, but I'm wondering about light for the 2 units on the second floor on the very east side that don't show any windows at all.
Yeah, so those projects are not shown, but they will have windows onto that corridor. But then the atrium, the tan atrium, the light comes right through there from the south end through those windows and catches through the corridor just like that. It looks like a bit of a stretch on paper, but when you're standing in the room, the light travels.
Further questions? The recommendation of the staff is to defer. Before we do that, is anybody who wants to comment?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay. This is still under review by city agencies, so the recommendation is for deferral, and we'll probably see this at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda for the public meeting is 76 and 83rd Avenue. This is the applicant is Keys LLC, and it's a property in the mixed-use neighborhood edge area. And this is a major development plan review, the conversion of about 9,000 square feet of garage space into 7 dwelling units. Again, we saw this at a workshop the last time we met, but we have not considered it in a public meeting.
Hi, I'm August Montgomery. I'm a member of 1040 Keys LLC. I believe my architect.
Is your mic on?
Green.
Move it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So I'm August Montgomery. I'm a member of 1040 Keys. Also, my architect, Sophia Lane, should also be on Zoom. I'm going to go through the presentation. She has better handle on some more technical aspects about the project, just in case anybody has any questions. So the project is essentially it's 7 units. That red building to the left, that was formerly a roofing company, and there's a garage and an office in the front. That we were proposing to put a 2-bedroom unit there. And then you can see the walkway between the 2 buildings there. If you walk back to the left, there's another garage. We're proposing another unit there. And then if you, as you walk to the back, you turn to the right, that's where the creamery was, and we're proposing 5 units there.
Do we have pictures of those?
Yep, further in the presentation.
So here's the site plan. This just shows we're gonna have to obviously put some additional water and sewer service for the especially the creamery, but also the garage. There's a site plan showing where all those utilities are gonna go. The next slide has a general layout to the site plan of the site here. So you can see a little better where everything is. If you look to the left, you can see the 3 units there for the bottom 3 units for the creamery. And then if you look to the bottom left, that's the garage that we're planning on doing. And then if you look all the way over to the bottom right, but if you look up a little bit, it's the bottom floor. So yeah, right up a little bit from there. Yep, right there. That is it's right now it's an office and a garage. Plan on combining them and into a 2-bedroom unit. Here's just some detailed drawings, how we're gonna do trees, the wood dumpster enclosure, which I did mention on the site plan, but actually we go back one, sorry, just to show where the dumpster, if you right there, yep. So the dumpster is gonna be right there. I'm gonna close that area. Okay. Yep, so show some details about the wood dumpster enclosure, the asphalt, and the sidewalk that is going to be done with the city of Albany to be done. Next slide. So here's some other pictures from different angles. The side of the building is going to be there's going to be aluminum clad windows that we're going to put in. And also we're going to keep the buildings with historical colors. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the presentation, we're going in for historical tax credits. So we already have the part 1 approved, and we're very close to submitting the part 2 to ship all. We have all the details on the plans. This just shows the improvements that we're going to do for 76. So it shows some of the elevation. As I said before, some of the things we're going to do is repair the masonry, the new window in the boarded opening that's there right now. We're going to repaint matching the existing color scheme, which is historic. We're going to restore the main entrance with an historic garage door right there. So we fixed wood panel for the orange. We're also going to install a metal roof. Here's some of the improvements to the west of 76. We're going to go similar to the front, just repairing masonry, repainting the side, replacing the door. It's like a very rundown metal door right now with a wood panel door, restore the transom, reopen the boarded windows, and install new aluminum clad windows to the original openings. So this slide just shows this is a closer view of the creamery. So the bottom is going to have the 3 units. As you can see, as you get further back, it's taller back there. And then we're going to have 1 unit on the 2nd floor and then 1 unit on the 3rd floor. Our mix of units for the creamery is going to be 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, and 2 studio units. We're also going to put a new sprinkler system in, and then obviously the utilities, the gas and electric. We're planning on using that Navion heating units. That's it.
What's the status of the buildings with the 3 garage doors? Is that coming down? Is that staying?
What's that?
Back to the this one.
Oh,
What's happening with that there with those 3 big look like doors with that building? Is that coming down or is that staying?
I'm pretty sure those are going to get replaced. I'm actually positive. Those are gonna get replaced with like historic, like wood.
So the actual structures that I'm looking at,
Oh, that structure right there, it's staying, like the whole structure is staying. We're renovating it and, historic materials and everything.
okay,
Hi, this is Sophia Lane with Lacey Thaler Riley Wilson, architect working with August on this project. If you go to the following slide, one after that, and you'll see that other elevation where that
Right.
stays, those garage units get transformed into paneled, glazed, insulated openings.
thank you.
Okay, so also some other things with the north part of building 80, the creamery. We're gonna renew EPM roof, the skylight. Sophia just mentioned filling garage doors. Next slide. So this is the garage in the back that I was talking about before. This is going to be there's already an existing 2-bedroom above it. We're going to put just another 2-bedroom down there where that garage door opening is, and we're going to make it handicap accessible. Also, just some other shots of the area between the buildings. There's a handicap ramp right there. There's 2 units that are currently occupied, handicap accessible, and then just a shot of the vacant lot that's going to be doing some light landscaping. But it's going to remain like a courtyard. We're not going to use it for parking. So this is the last slide here. This is where that garage was. We're going to do some repair the masonry, replace the door, repair the transom, create large windows for the bedrooms for emergency egress, and provide the insulated and full wood panel case windows and half light door transoms and sconce entryway. That's it. Did you have anything you would add, Sophia?
I think you covered it pretty well. Just to clarify, there are existing apartment units on this property already, and we are just taking the vacant spaces, the industrial spaces, and creating new apartment units.
Does the board have any questions to the applicants?
Sure, the areas behind the garage doors, are they going to be garage apartment spaces, or will they be something else?
So the areas behind the garage doors, that's going to be the apartments. Yeah, that's what. Yes. Yeah.
It's good decoration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Further questions? Has anyone from the community signed up to speak?
We did have someone email, I think about a week ago, so I'm just gonna look to see if they're on. Yep. So it's Mr. Clammy. I'm gonna promote him to be a panelist. Bear with me just one second, then I'm also just gonna switch to the timer setting just so that he can see how much time he has left. And Travis, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yep. So feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Sure. My name is Travis Clammy. I am actually the property owner, and I live in the building that's the southeastern border of this property, 73rd Avenue at the corner of Elizabeth. I guess first and foremost, I'm speaking to support this project. I've lived in my building for 15 years. This project is a building that I've long admired, and I'm really excited that someone is going to be putting some money into it and fixing it up. I think it will be really good for our neighborhood to have more housing and to have a building getting some money and, you know, renovation, which doesn't happen much in our neighborhood. So I really do want to say that I'm very much supportive of the project. I have a couple issues that are kind of like issues that predate the current owners, that are issues that I've had with this building in relation to my building. So I just wanted to mention some of them quick so that they could be considered, even just considered by the new owners going forward. One of them is drainage off the roofs of the existing buildings. Some of them have very large flat roofs that don't have downspouts, and there's a lot of water that runs off the building that the alleyway where the dumpster is going. There's some water that runs off a flat roof and can sometimes flood that area. That's one thing. The driveways, both the driveway where the dumpster is going and the main driveway into the courtyard are gravel. And especially during snow removal, a lot of that gravel is pushed out into the street. And snow removal itself has sometimes been a problem because when the center courtyard is plowed out, there's no place for the snow to go. And sometimes all the snow from the courtyard ends up in parking spots on the street. So that's something that I feel like should be considered, like how snow removal from that center courtyard is going to happen. And because those lots are gravel, I don't know if either of those lots are going to get paved, but those lots are gravel, and that gravel is always ending up in the street, clogging the drains. I'm a little bit concerned about where the dumpster is going, and especially because it's going to be serving so many apartments, like, you know, if it's going to be emptied regularly and how it might affect, like, especially my yard, which is right next to there, but just kind of the neighborhood in general, like with, you know, a dumpster that's serving that many apartments, if it's going to smell in the summer or whatever. I see my time is almost up here. And the one last thing I want to say real quick is parking. I have off-street parking, so the parking will not affect me, but a really common problem on Third Ave is people driving the wrong way. Third Ave is a one-way street, and it's really common that people drive the wrong way up Third Ave to get to this block. And I'm a little bit concerned with this with this building having so many apartments, if that's going to become even more of a problem with people trying to park on this block. And again, I know that's not totally the building owner's responsibility, but it's just something else I wanted to mention. But mostly, I'm really excited and supportive of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other speakers to sign up.
Okay. You can listen to the staff report now.
Would you like the applicant to provide rebuttal, or would you like them to provide rebuttal after my report?
Your report.
Okay, thank you. Bear with me, I'm just going to switch back to the PowerPoint. So the comments that we've been waiting for, and to the planning board members and to the audience, I'd shared in the memo that I'd sent to the planning board that there were still some comments from the water department that were going to be addressed. We did get this letter that is on the screen from the water department stating that the plans are approvable with the conditions that buildings all have acceptable water and sewer services. And this goes into specific requirements, including closed caption television inspections to verify that the sewer service can be reused, investigation and verification that the reused water service isn't lead, and that the modified plans don't meet these standards, need to be updated, as well as the requirements for ownership and maintenance agreements for the water and sewer service, since they're proposing to use a shared meter for multiple units. So these have been added in the memos that you have in front of you, board members, as recommended conditions of approval. I will go through the other review criteria for development plan review, but feel free if you have any questions now to raise those. Okay. So these comments that you just saw on there are listed as recommended conditions of approval. I'll come back to those after going through these comments. So again, looking through the 6 criteria, whether the project is going to have an adverse impact on the surrounding community. This is providing a reuse of an existing building, and this has met all department comments and requirements, excluding the water department, which would be addressed through conditions of approval. And there's minimal utility work as part of the proposed project. So overall, this would not create any significant adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Again, based on the proposed use and design, this is not creating any safety risks. Third criteria is whether there's any relevant prior approvals or conditions, which there are not for the site. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. This is consistent with LU2, which is a land use transportation connection. This is located within a block of the Bus Plus Blue line, or the 923, which stops at Elizabeth Street. And it's also consistent with land use strategy 3, which is the reuse of vacant and abandoned properties. For the consistency with the USDO, with the approval of a minor certificate of appropriateness for the proposed dumpster and any modifications that are visible from the public right-of-way, as well as the conditions addressing the water department's concerns, this would comply with the USDO and city code. And again, there are not any prior requirements or conditions for the site that the project needs to comply with.
Any questions to Zach? Okay, there are no other speakers. The applicant has a few minutes to clarify any issues or items. You heard that there were some concerns that were raised by the person who supported it, specifically water drainage off the back of the property, snow removal, gravel issue, and the dumpster. And maybe you'd like to address those, or whether maybe the architect would like to address whoever.
I can start off. And,
August, would you like me to take it?
I'll start off, and then if
Sure.
you know, whatever, I can fill in the gaps. So as far as with the dumpster and I'll start there with the trash pickup. We plan on having, we have a few other projects where we use a dumpster. We have regular pickups. It's definitely not going to be an issue. We get a appropriate size dumpster there, and probably have weekly pickups for the dumpster. Now, as far as the roof, I believe and Sophia can correct me, I believe we're going to do have some gutters there. And then the last thing with the snow removal, we're not, I don't know how the last owner did it. We're not going to be using like a truck to plow it out. We're probably going to use like a snow blower, just because it's not going to be for use for parking. So it's probably going to be a different thing. And then the last thing, the gravel, we're probably going to be that. So I did. So Sophia corrects or amplify anything I just said.
All of your comments you prefaced with were probably. I'm just wondering if you're not sure or excuse me, or what?
No, I am sure. I didn't mean, but if I said probably, I'm mistaken. We are going to do those things. So I just wanted to make sure, with Sophia, that I wasn't detailed, that I wasn't just speaking with something that wasn't with the plans.
Yeah, I think the idea that in the courtyard largely will be, there were originally brick pavers in the courtyard, and those will be replaced and reset in many places. The back portion of the lot will remain landscaped, but at least that drive in the center will be all brick. And along the side, we are looking to have some kind of permeable surface that would allow water drainage. But that has not been determined what particular material that will be. But we will consider something that won't be moved by any type of plow or other, loose material.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation of the staff is to approve the project with these conditions that I think Zach showed you. So I will entertain a motion to approve with the conditions, and I'll read the conditions for the record. Number one, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant must receive approval from the Department of Water and Water Supply to ensure that the buildings have acceptable water and sewer services, and the applicant must address the requirement listed in the 27 July correspondence from the Department of Water and Water Supply. And then the second condition is prior to the issuance of any building permit, the applicant must complete the required ownership and maintenance agreement for shared water and sewer services to the satisfaction of the Department of Water and Water Supply.
And one correction, just my own recommended condition for condition number one, I would recommend changing the applicant must address the requirements to satisfy the requirements, just to ensure that they're meeting all requirements.
Okay, hearing that, do I have a motion to approve the project with the conditions as mentioned?
Yep.
Moved by Martin Hall, second.
Second.
By Roman Kucherov. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve with the conditions as proposed and mentioned by Zach, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next project. And that is 804 and 808 Central Avenue. The project is applicant is Speedway. And the agent Bergman Associates. The proposal is in the zoning district mixed use community highway. And the request is for a demolition review of structures for the construction of a new gas station and a convenience retail store. This is a project, again, we saw at a workshop, but has not yet been in the public. Is the applicant available?
Yeah, we have one applicant on Zoom. Brian, let me know if you need me to elevate anyone else to be a panelist.
Okay, hi, Jack. Could you do Mike Pitts and Clayton McCain as well, just in case? Perfect, thank you. Good evening, I'm Brian Burry with Bergman Associates, representing Speedway tonight for the demolition of 3 structures, 2 buildings, one's a fueling canopy at their, 2 of the buildings, the one building and the fueling canopy is their current facility. And then they're in the process of purchasing the adjacent parcel, which is that L-shaped building that we'll see next. So the photo on the left is just a street shot of through those trees is where the existing Speedway is. There's AutoZone to the right, and then that white building with the blue canopy or awning is the one they're going to purchase. And here's an aerial. So the red is the total property that they will have once they acquire it. And that the long white roof line is the bigger building, the L-shaped, I'll call it. I keep calling it L-shaped. There's a gray piece of that makes the L. And then the little tiny stuff is their Speedway building with the canopy, fueling canopy. So basically we want to remove those three structures so that we can redevelop the site with a new state-of-the-art convenience store, their model, along with a new fueling canopy with 10 fueling dispensers. And so there's a need to remove those buildings to make this new redevelopment, which will also provide better safety patterns, traffic patterns throughout the site and into the site. We're going to reduce impervious surface by removing the buildings and make it a really nice new redevelopment. And those buildings are, from our records that we can see, they're early 1900s, really in poor shape, cement block, and with the exception, the existing Speedway stores is really, you'll see photos later on, but it's really small, and there's no way that these things can be repurposed based on our new layout, making everything efficient and just the age of the buildings. And our intent would be to will be to recycle products that are recyclable, such as we can do the glass, any copper piping, wiring, and possibly do some concrete if we can salvage any. And Speedway is on board with making sure that a reputable sub-consultant will be on board to do these kinds of recycling. These are photos of the two buildings. So the little one on the upper left is the Speedway building. Bottom left is the back of the building, and same with bottom right. And then the upper right is the longer L-shaped building. It's a auto glass type store. And these are just two front shots of each, showing the glass, some bricks. This is our plan view, existing conditions. The red obviously are the two buildings. Those will be coming down. And then the canopy is a grayer in the middle of the parking lot there. And then this is the two buildings that will be demoed, overlaid onto our proposed layout. As you can see that where they fall as it relates to the redevelopment of the property. And then lastly, this is the new building that they'll be constructing with the fueling canopy, all brick and glass. So it's really a nice looking building at the end of the day. And that's it.
Questions by the board?
I'm just curious on the egress and ingress to the site. Are you going to be sharing the driveway with Meridians at the light?
That is the plan. And we have agreements being executed or drawn up for execution between both parties. In addition, we are, our traffic study is in front of the city engineering for under review. So whatever mitigation needs come out of that review will have to be addressed. But the plan is to have that a shared driveway at the signal.
And that'll be for exit only, and the other driveway, further west, I'm imagining, right? That's going to be ingress only?
So the west will be conventional as it is today. And then the one at the signalized intersection will also be conventional. I think there's one, so there's three today. It's kind of hard to see on the plan, but so the one basically for the L-shaped building will be removed. We are removing a curb cut based on the new layout.
Other questions? Why do you have so much dispensing of gasoline? You had 10 pumps, now you're gonna go to basically 10 times 4.
Mike, is there something you can answer? I can.
Yeah. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. I know it's a long night, so I'll try to be brief. The number of dispensers is based on our standard model. This is something that we offer based on the traffic counts that we do when we look at a property, and this area supports that type of business. Obviously, what you saw, what's existing now, what we're operating is long overdue for a remodel and upgrade. So this type of a layout supports the volume that we attempt to capture. So looking at the area, you know, there are several Sunoco's, Mobiles, and of course Cumberland's and Stewart shops that we feel that we can compete with. And this is.
We're losing you because you're breaking up. Can you either get closer or?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking on my laptop microphone.
Well, yeah, that's good. You need to be that close then if you're using a laptop. Thanks.
There you go. Well, I apologize for the view that you might have. So.
You're very handsome. You look good.
There you go. All right. So what I was trying to say is the competition in the area is what we're going after, and we have the traffic counts in our early studies that say that we can capture the gasoline volume to support, and that's really our standard when we look at bringing things up to date. So I know that it's more than what you see now, but the site is much outdated in that regard. So I hope that explains what we're trying to do here.
I can reiterate some of that if you need.
Yeah, it was almost impossible to hear them.
Okay, basically, so Speedway has they're not going to build more than what they need because it's just a waste of money on their end. So they do do their own traffic type of study where they take those volumes and determine how many dispensers they can provide and still meet economics. So, and they came up with 10 for this site.
Yeah, except there are 5 gasoline stations within spitting distance of that one. So I'm just still wondering. Seems like an awful lot of dispensing.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit confused because you said they're increasing to 10, but our proposal says they're increasing from 10 to 40.
Right, there are 10 pumps and 40 places on those. Each pump has 4 places.
Well, each pump is 2-sided, so it can serve. There's 10 dispensers.
Right.
So it's technically 20 fueling points.
Fueling positions, yes.
Yes. Yeah, not 40. There aren't 40.
No. 2. Oh.
No, I understand that part, that you can have 2 different products or 3 or 4 different products at the same pump. So the way it's described here, in my mind, it sounds like there's actually 40 separate actual pumps, not 40 different products.
No.
You see what I'm saying? But I think my question is more for the planning department is, do we have regulations in the USDO that says how many pumps or how many actual stations can be at a gas station, whether it be by square footage or total period?
Yeah, some of that is, dependent on the restrictions of the site. And a lot of times the turning movements and space for the actual trucks that deliver the fuel dictate a lot of the site design as well. You know, there's certain things on our end for the USDO where there's setbacks and lot coverage as well that also kind of factor into that, landscaping as well. There are parking requirements for vehicle fueling stations, but a lot of times that's already met essentially by the space that's occupied by someone when they are actually fueling. So it's usually more restricted or defined by the applicant themselves.
And one more follow-up. Yeah. One more follow-up question again for planning department. What about the environmental impact? Because now we're increasing the number of underground pumps than we were before. So how does that affect it?
Yeah, so at this point, the applicants just submitted a demolition review and then some of the area variance applications that'll be required as part of the application. They haven't submitted a development plan review application. So, you know, once we've received all the applicable applications for this project, that'll be the right opportunity to start the seeker review, first by coordinating and then doing an assessment of the site, and potentially requesting more information in terms of, you know, the underground storage and other impacts, whether that be for the soil or just for transportation impacts as well, just to assess how that project's going to impact the site and the surrounding neighborhood.
Question I have, Will, to the applicants. In your development, are you planning in the infrastructure to make provisions for electric cars and other electric vehicles?
Yeah, Brian, I can talk to that if everybody can hear me.
Well, again, it's going to be hard to hear you, so I'm hoping.
All right. Yeah, so our company was just purchased by 7-Eleven. And I don't know if that, if you've been watching the news, but 7-Eleven is really progressive in looking at things like EV support, which would be your power stations. We currently don't have that in our plans as a Speedway brand, but I see in the future that we will probably be doing that. In this site plan, we don't have that as an addition at this time. But it could be in the future.
Does that help? Do you want me to reiterate anything?
Yes, please do.
So
all I know at the end is we don't have a plan at that time.
Yeah, so Mike was saying that if you may know, well, so right now they're not planning on doing any electric charging stations, but there may be some talk going on in the future to add some at their stations, but for this plan in front of us, we are not showing that. I think ultimately everybody will, based on what's going on with production. So I'm sure at some point there will be, but not right now.
Any further questions from the board? Is there anybody who wants to speak on this?
Nobody signed up to speak.
Okay, well, there's no action to be done tonight, as you see from the proposal or the commentary by planning staff that there's a number of variances that have to be addressed. So we'll be seeing this project again. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The next item on the agenda is 242 Spruce Street. The applicant is Patrick Chu, and this proposal is in the mixed-use community urban district, and we're looking at this in a concept form right now, and it's a conversion of approximately 17,000 square foot. It's conversion and expansion of about 17,000 square foot to commercial structure, and it's going to be changed to a mixed-use structure with 54 dwelling units and about 8,300 square feet of commercial uses, and also some automobile parking places. This is a project again that we saw in a workshop meeting. And this is the first time we will see it in a public meeting. And I would mention no action is anticipated tonight, so the concept review.
So Pat, you should be able to unmute yourself. I've been trying to elevate Phil to a panelist, but it's not seeming to work. Let me know if you need me to elevate anyone else to be a panelist.
Can you add Woody Wood too? Should be on there also.
Yeah, bear with me just one sec.
Woody Chen.
Perfect.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's been a long night. I wanted to first thing address is that we are not doing 54 dwelling units. I don't know where that number came from. There are only 37 dwelling units in this project.
Okay.
Okay, so we are planning on rehabbing the current Freihofer building, which is located under Henry Johnson Boulevard spanning from Spruce Street to Elk. We are going to be adding additional floor on the existing structure of the building. It's existing right now is 3 stories. We're going to be adding another floor to make it 4 stories. We plan on doing 37 residential apartments above and 3 commercial spaces with indoor parking and outdoor parking for 22 automobiles. We have a mix of 18 penthouse units, duplexes. So between the 3rd and 4th floor, we are duplexing units where we have living room and kitchen on the 1st floor and bedrooms on the 2nd between the 3rd and 4th floor. We are giving tenants amenities with a gym and also rooftop canopy with barbecue and a sand pit as an amenity for the tenants also. Zach, do we have building plans on our spreadsheet here?
Yeah, I think you had the introductory slides just about your company, some of the pictures of the existing site, and then that gets into the floor plans and the elevations.
Got it. I'm assuming that everybody on the panel have seen the package that we had provided earlier.
In terms of just the application materials, or?
Correct, application materials. So everybody is familiar with what we are planning on doing with the project.
Yeah, they were in the Dropbox.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they were in our Dropbox on the computer, so we were able to view them there. And we're looking at them now, of course, on the screen.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you guys. You guys are coming in garbled.
I said that it was in our Dropbox before the meeting, and also we're reviewing it now on the screen here in the room.
Okay, so this is the first time you guys are seeing the floor plans right now.
In detail, yes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys. You guys are coming in really garbled.
You type it in, Zach.
Yeah, Pat, I'm going to try and just type it in. This was presented at a workshop in June, so the board has seen this preliminarily, but has not seen this at a meeting itself.
Got it. Okay. So pretty much on this layout, it's the first floor. We have 3 commercial spaces, as you guys can see, with 2 residential apartments with the lobby. And then on the right side, you guys will see indoor parking and outdoor parking. Zach, if we could flip to the next page. And this is the 2nd floor plan. We have residential units, and you guys can see on the right-hand side that we have an outdoor terrace with barbecue pit and lounge chairs and a sand pit that's going to be amenity for the tenants. And then the next page is going to be the 3rd floor. And this floor is the unique apartments where we have penthouse apartments, duplexes, where we have right now an internal stairwell connecting the 3rd and 4th floor of this building. Now the existing building right now is only 3 stories. We are adding an additional story onto the building. We are keeping the existing brick We're gonna just literally add another floor onto the existing structure with all light brick. And the building will look exactly the way it looks right now, with black aluminum windows. Are there any questions?
Any questions by the board? Hearing none, do we have anybody to speak on this?
We had one person that signed up to speak. Let me see if there is Joe Manginelli in the audience. Okay, and I am not seeing him on Zoom either, so no speakers.
Okay. Do you have any comments, Jack?
Yep, so I think we had a development plan review application where the number 54 was mentioned. So I think that's where some of the confusion lie with the number of units. Pat, if you could mute your audio, that would be appreciated since we're getting feedback on that. There will probably need to be some other spaces provided for the units, although there'll probably be a recalculated parking analysis just to make sure that the number of spaces are sufficient based on the number of units. But I think with that shift to 37, that should reduce the number of required spaces for it to come into compliance. Based on the proximity to frequent transit on Central Avenue, the shared parking adjustment within our code, which allows the two largest uses to share parking and get a reduction for that, which would be for the commercial tenant as well as the multifamily units. And then there is ample on-street parking in front of the site, which comes to about 23 spaces, which also counts towards the total number of required spaces.
Okay. All right, well, this was a concept review. There was still a lot to go. But we'll be happy to see this again. Thank you, Mr. Joe. We have two final items on the agenda, I believe.
Three.
Two proposed demolitions. The applicant is the City of Albany's Department of Building and Regulatory Compliance, represented by Sam Wells. This is a demolition review for 92 Alexander Street and 507 First Street.
Yes, good evening. Thank you all for having me. My name is Sam Wells. I'm the city's neighborhood stabilization coordinator with the Department of Buildings and Regulatory Compliance. We are proposing to demolish 92 Alexander Street and also 507 First. We'll start with 92 Alexander. Some background: this is part of a pilot program that the Department of Buildings and Regulatory Compliance is doing to give vacant buildings that we believe are likely to become emergency demolition a public review process, and also to proactively eliminate the harms and threats to the neighborhood that these buildings pose now and in the future. We undertook a community process with the selection of these buildings, and in the South End, we actually were at the South End Neighborhood Association meeting back in November 2020. 92 Alexandria Street was the neighborhood's top choice. We also sent out a series of postcards to neighboring properties across the city from the list of properties that we're looking at. Those postcards number about 1,400 in total. So this property, as you are likely aware, is located in the South End. It's been vacant for at least a decade, and this came to our attention because it has been stuck in the tax foreclosure process for a few years now. The county has, taken it through tax foreclosure and has offered up to the land bank, as is their typical practice with vacant tax foreclosed buildings. The land bank and the council reviewed this building, and the land bank declined to take it due to the structural conditions within this building. They did not deem it as a building that would have any buyers, and no buyers have stepped forth to the county to purchase the building either. Next slide, please. So this building is 111 years old based on assessment records. You can see there we brought in a contractor and an engineer to get reports on what the estimated rehab and stabilization of the building would cost. And you can see the number there is just north of $360,000. We use that as you see in your packets. We use that information to come up with a sample pro forma and test, what it would take to bring this building back. Our pro forma, what we drafted up, shows that it would take over 20 years for a prospective landlord to recoup their initial investment in the property. And I believe that no bank or lender would give a mortgage, lend the necessary capital for this structure. And probably, our best guess estimates would be this building would probably need over $250,000 in public subsidies to make it to a successful rehab. And there's a limited pool of those subsidies and a limited pool of developers who can access those subsidies. And so, we'd like to propose the demolition of this property due to those exorbitant costs combined with the continuing deterioration and obviously no identifiable outcomes involving rehabilitation. Post demolition, assuming approval, we would take ownership and enroll in our motor-owned program. And our motor-owned program would entail having a local steward, someone on the block, take care of the lot for a year, and following a year of taking care of it without violations, theirs for $1. And then we'll cover closing costs and also provide a small stipend for improving the lot. And we'll also make the building available to the Historic Albany Foundation for salvage as much as can safely be done. And you'll see lines on the following slides for our restoration plan for the site. The contractor will top the entire lot with clean fill, 6 inches of topsoil and grass seed. Any and all damage to municipal infrastructure and adjacent property shall be repaired and replaced to the satisfaction of the city to our specification at the contractor's expense. There's no adjacent structures to this building, so we don't foresee any damages there. And the city sidewalk, it does need to get replaced there. So if that got torn up, that would be, it needs to be replaced anyways. Next slide. So this is the northerly front wall. Next slide, Seth. This is the westerly side of the building. Now we're going to jump into the interior, and you can start to see here, some of the conditions inside the building. You see there are some fractured floor joists and a failing floor system. There are multiple floor penetrations on both the first and second floors, some of which cannot be easily seen due to the amount of debris and rugs and other things on the floors. As you can see there, the rug is actually coming through the floor. Anybody stepping on that spot would likely fall through the floors. We were not able to access the majority of the first floor and the second floor due to these multiple failures throughout the building. We were able to access the basement, but here's another slide of some more failing floor members of the systems. Next slide, please. This is a typical view of the basement. You can see some of the black mold that is present throughout the building, and that black mold is present not just in the basement, but in the first and second floors as well. Next slide, please. And this is a typical view of the debris and some of the rugs and other items that are present throughout the first and second floor of this building, which makes it very treacherous and dangerous to walk through safely. Without being able to really tell which spots of the floor are weak and able to hold the person or not. And the next slide, please. And you can see this is actually first floor view of another floor penetration. I believe it's the same one from the earlier photo. Next slide. And then the last bit of information of this building. This is a picture of the foundation. And I actually am going to read a section of the engineer's report. So in the engineer's report on page 5, currently the resulting behavior and consistency of the existing foundation replicates that of a dense cemented soil and not the resiliency and structural capacity of a proper concrete mixture. Essentially, this is a substandard concrete material and it is failed. And while this building currently does not meet the qualifications for an emergency demolition, we expect it to meet those qualifications in the next year or so. And instead of waiting for that to happen, we prefer to give this, we'd like to try giving this building a public review process, as well as give the neighborhood the opportunity to weigh in. And to that end, last week I went door to door in that same block and talked to everybody, gave them the opportunity to have a conversation with us on this building as well. All of our responses were pretty favorable. At this time, any questions from the board?
My question, not for the applicant, but more for Zach and how, if the department is going to go through this type of process on these types of properties going forward, this is something we should probably definitely put on consent agenda.
Yeah, and this was an instance where this wasn't presented at the June workshop. So the board, didn't have the ability to talk about this ahead of time. Going forward though, if any of you feel like you would like to move something to the consent agenda, feel free to reach out to me or bring that up during the meeting as well. But just again, kind of in the spirit of Sam's comments, just making sure that this there is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on this if possible, or at least learn more about it so that they can either provide public comment or not.
And I also want to commend the department for meticulously going through the process. And I think from a general public perspective, if you buy a house with a red X, if you just assume that it's either going to fall down, burn up, or be just a public nuisance, and obviously the care that you all took to document all of the various things that existed in that property, and then stay here late tonight to share, I think is a testament to what you actually on a day basis. I applaud you for that. But for our purposes on the planning board, we need to have these for the workshops so that it can be on the consent agenda, because I think this is relatively no-brainer.
Thank you. And if you were going to the next item, I think we could make your presentation a lot shorter.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So exactly going on both those slides. I think the only difference here is this is 507 First Street. The only difference here between this and Knights Alexander is, something to notate here is the damage to the adjacent structure that is occurring here because of this building. It's in the same exact circumstance as 92 Alexander Street, where Albany County has foreclosed on the property for unpaid taxes, and the land bank, the Albany County Land Bank, has declined to take it due to the amount of work that is required. Again, we brought an engineer and a contractor through the building that scopes work and cost estimates, and the math is pretty similar, though it's a smaller building. So both the income you could generate and the cost to rehab is lower, but again, the storyline is the same. What's really different here is that this building is causing active damage to the adjacent structure at 505 First Street. That homeowner is currently working with the development agency to fix the roof, which is the main problem there. And this building at 507 First is dumping rainwater onto 505 First, which was contributing significantly to their issues. And so we'd like to propose to demolish this building, not only to remove the blight and harm this building is causing on the neighborhood, but also to help stabilize the adjacent structure.
Yeah, and some of the conditions here are relatively similar inside the building. The floor system is a little bit safer and much cleaner, as you can see. But the main storyline is the foundation is similar to 92 Alexander Street. It's a substandard concrete material. It is failing. And while it's not an emergency yet, it certainly will become one, especially with no foreseeable viable alternatives.
How much does it cost you all to do this particular part of your exercise?
It is, so, you know, this is new for us. We haven't done a proactive demolition like this as far as either any of us can remember the city ever doing. The engineering reports and the contractor's reports and roughly a couple $1,000 in addition to time and the demolitions themselves. We're going to see how they differ from emergency demolitions because we're going to be able to group them together. Hopefully, get a group rate for these. The land bank has shown that getting those rates helps them drive down the cost of demolitions. Our average emergency demolition is about $40,000, $45,000. But hopefully we can get a little bit lower with these. But we have, the funding from our Cities Rise grant, thanks to the New York State Attorney General's office, to do about 4 of these roughly. And this is again part of a pilot program. If successful, we'll work to secure a more reliable, consistent source of funding and do these more frequently to help reduce the number of emergency demolitions and improve upon the whole process. We're looking to get more proactive in every aspect of our operations, from inspections to demolitions, and this is a part of that.
Further questions? Do we have any comments from the public?
We did have one person in the audience, Mr. Martinberg, Sam Martinberg. Did you want to speak? Okay. Okay, so no comments on either application.
Okay. If it's all right with the board, I'd like to take both of these under one vote. So first action for both of the properties would be I'll call it review act, a negative declaration. Moved by Dennison and seconded by Christopher Ellis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then the next item would be to approve the demolition of the 2 properties, both Alexander Street and First Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Vanessa and seconded by Roman Conchero. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one final item on the agenda. It is 1415 Washington Avenue. And the proposal here is to present for this project a presentation of the traffic mitigation plan. And for this one, I am going to recuse myself because there may be a conflict of interest as it relates to the future proposal that may or may not be presented tonight concerning that. I'm on the finance committee there, so I will leave the room, but I will come back. You haven't gotten rid of me yet because we do have one other item to discuss, and that has to do with the workshop coming up. Right.
Okay, thank you, Al. Well, members of the board, nice to see you for a change. Good to be back in person. With me is Evan Purdue from the applicant, Scenic Investments. We were here before the project, and the project has made some changes. We've a new architect on board, helping partners, so the building has a slightly different view. The main purpose tonight is to talk about how to handle the traffic mitigation with regard primarily with pedestrian crossings taking place on Washington. That's been quite a discussion. I think we started a discussion with the city agencies back in November, so it's been beaten around for quite a while. I'd like to go through and just show you where our plans, so you're in tune of what we are doing. Why don't you just run through this? This is existing crystal screech, you're aware of that. By the way, I'm using a new format. It's a little bit different than my
You did well.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone did well.
Okay, the next slide shows the site plan. Site plan is a little bit different, although the major elements are still the same. We added a courtyard with some parking space in the middle, so they're more convenient front entrance where people might come in to sign up for rooms or visit people, so they don't have to go beyond the subsurface around. And this is the parking level plan. So first level plan also has some amenities on it, crowd areas, shows amenities. Next. The Crystal Suites was completed in 2004, as opposed to the other things you're talking about that are 111 years old. This building is only 17 years old. But this is a better use for it, and we propose to accommodate the building. We now have 231 plus or minus dwelling units, down from a little bit from the 240 we had originally. 557 beds, we originally said 560 plus or minus. Number of parking places dropped somewhat since we eliminated some subsurface parking. Demolition diversion plan stays exactly the same. We're able to divert 38% of the building. Demolition diversion. Measures on the site plan. This is the existing addition. We have commercial suites. And that's the proposed site plan, which repeats the one from before. This is we have a landscape plan. I show that because that's the landscape plan. Landscape plan is concentrated some landscape on front to meet the requirement of 1 tree per 35 feet. We have very limited space to put it in because we have utilities contend with, but I think we fit in enough trees to meet the requirement. And we do have some planting places. Next. This is the level 4 plan, the one with the parking on it and the amenities on it. Level 2 floor plan is dormitory units. The pink colored is some lounge space, some common space on each floor. Same on 3 and 4. 3 through 5 have the same principal layout, some common space in the middle. Next. Here's some elevation views. They look similar to the last one, but they have changed somewhat. You go to the next set of elevation views. This shows the long view and the end view of the buildings. And if you go to the next one, this shows some renderings of how it looks. On the left is Crystal Suites as it exists today, and on the right is our project as it will exist. They haven't shown landscaping in front because we block that entire view of that wing. But when if you take down a landscaping, that's what it looks like from Washington. Next, this is coming from the east heading west. Existing building on the left, then a proposed building on the right. It's more apparent. The colors make it a little bit stand out more so than the existing building. Next, this is coming from the west towards the east. And the same thing. The building is taller than Crystal Suite, so it's more visible. Now to get to the reason that we're here today, the traffic mitigation. Scenic Investments hired Craig Manning Engineering. They're the engineers that did the Washington Avenue corridor study to the city. To prepare that study, and the one main element of that was to look at methods of pedestrian crossings there, because there are already 1475 and 1385 Washington Avenue were currently in place, and there was also crossing taking place to the Sunoco station. When the day that Sunoco station was built, there was a steady path coming from the dormitory to Sunoco station, primarily because it's so weird.
So consequently, students traipsed across Washington area to pick up the beer. Luckily, they didn't drink any because there was no actions coming back. So they, it's been a concern all along. So this corridor study was done. And what I recommended was some sort of signals at either 1415, and because there's another proposed plan behind 1385, it's another proposed development, which we already made an application for. We haven't seen it in front of the board except I think at an earlier.
I think just for concept review, yeah.
Yeah. So again, there. So the original plan was to either combine it with the signal between it. Then upon review, we looked at how students are treating existing signal. They're very well pedestrian activated signal at the Dunkin' Donuts intersection right out to Common Circle. And if any student were to want to go make a safe crossing, they have to walk down there and cross there. Number of students that go there is the minimum. Very few students walk that distance to go there. Diagonally across Washington Avenue, heading directly if we really want to go, is the preferred method of crossing the street. So after thinking about putting one signal between the two buildings, we said that probably wouldn't work. Nobody's going to back up from 1415 across at that point and then head out towards Common Circle where they're probably going to head for their classes. So we originally went to Creighton Manning and said, is there something we use for this? So they originally recommended beacons, which are flashing beacons that are, they can either be pedestrian activated by a signal or activated by a pedestrian stepping in a crosswalk. We proposed those, Brooks still looked at it. He still wasn't convinced that they're successful as a stoplight. So in fact, Creighton Manning and they prepared this plan, which shows two signals. Ours is stage one, because I think we're well ahead of 1385 plan right now, trying to go for approval. And that signal would apply for 1415. And for the next plan, it shows a detailed plan what it looks like. A new island put in the middle, it's like an area of refuge in the middle, and somebody stops in the middle. And so full crosswalk with pedestrian activated signals on both sides. And it will have multiple heads on it, one head for every lane. So it'll be 4 heads on the signals. Fully, it'll be exactly like the signal up at Dunkin' Donuts. And the timing of it will work out. The real need here is normally going to work with traffic engineers. They're trying to progress traffic through the area as quickly as they can. Here, the goal was somewhat reversed. When the speed limit was dropped to 30, the goal was to get traffic to slow down. So consequently, the timing of the signals is more important to make them at odds with each other rather than to have somebody go through at 45 miles an hour and take all the signals. That's certainly not designed. So the signals are set up to cause people to stop more often than not. I drive that area quite regularly, and very rarely do I make more than 2 signals at a time. You virtually always have to stop. And there are 5 signals starting at 1385 or at 1365, the medical office building going up to exit 2. So we still add 2 more signals, allow a little bit more. We asked them to come up with a construction cost estimate and an estimate for engineering and inspection and contingencies, and that's displayed here. And I think I can't read the number very well. It's like 288,000 all done. And the developer is willing to pay them. So now the goal here is to see whether or not we're satisfied with it, the bank are satisfied with it, people are satisfied with what we want to do. So we can move forward. The rest of the plans that we're on the second phase review with all our other departments. And we're pretty close, I think, to getting other departments out of the way. One effort hanging over us is this pedestrian traffic limitation. It's called pedestrian traffic, but the vehicle traffic are no problem with us. They go if they want to make a right-hand turn out, they have to go up to Dunkin' Donuts right. is a one-way left-hand turn in and left-hand turn out, which doesn't entail very much traffic mitigation requirement. So the main mitigation is reduction.
So no, does this line up with the new driveway into the building?
Yes, this is, yeah. As a matter of fact, if you want to go back to one site plan, we do have a new pedestrian route. In there. There's a sidewalk going right from the entrance to the building, goes right out there, and it ends right at where the traffic is. So that's it's a convenient pedestrian reason. There's no reason for anybody to come out of that site walking and not use the traffic light. It lines up with exactly where I want to go. That having been said, will I guarantee they all will? No, I wouldn't guarantee that. There's good reason to assume they will. So we think this does a good job of addressing the issue of pedestrian traffic mitigation. So our goal here, I guess, would be to get comments from you folks and find out what you think of this. And I don't know whether or not Coach Rose had a chance to give you the comments on it. If he has, I'll wait for Zach to tell us.
Okay, so do you have anything to present?
I mean, I can talk generally, but if the board has any questions first, that might be most helpful.
Any questions from the board? Okay, good. Any questions from the public?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay, sounds like we're there then.
Yeah, so I met with Bill Trudeau today and Director Glass from our office just to talk about a number of different projects. This came up. You know, I think for traffic engineering's and I think they're still wanting to find the right solution. There's just a lot of factors that are impacting this. So going on, I'm going to go back to the last slide because that has the cost estimate. So from what Bill Trudeau said, new traffic signals are averaging about $200,000, including the equipment and installation. However, there's been an increase in delay for ordering them. So usually it takes about 24 to, or excuse me, I think about 1 to 2 years from order date to actual delivery. So there's a little bit of a delay in terms of, you know, if the applicant's looking to provide monies into like a set aside fund for this project, there's going to be some delays in terms of when the actual light's going to be installed as opposed to when the site's going to be used for, you know, the proposed dormitory. You know, and there's also some considerations too, just for construction as well. You know, some of the other alternatives, and none of this was finalized today, but I think it, you know, warrants more discussion. And I think from our department's end and traffic engineering's end, it just wanting to make sure that this is right, to make sure that whatever happens with this project, that it's sufficient enough regardless of the results of 1385 Washington Avenue and vice versa. You know, I think there's, while I think as Dan mentioned, you know, there are, the crossing is going to be right there. There's still going to be people that cross not at the crosswalk. So potentially looking at other solutions, you know, it could be something like a light. It could be creating a more formalized median where it is harder to use the median to wait as you're crossing the street, not at an intersection or at a crosswalk. And then there's also considerations as well for when people get to the U Albany side of how, if and how that's going to connect to the purple path, which is the existing path that U Albany has on the perimeter of the campus. So wanting to make sure that it connects there. And also that that can be coordinated with U Albany so that, you know, the appropriate landscaping and siding is made for this, just so that it encourages people to use existing pedestrian infrastructure instead of crossing at other locations, just again to reduce the number of you know, potential negative impacts as a result of this project.
Okay, okay, good, thank you. So it sounds like that building's a big factor. Everyone needs to.
Could I interject? You know, it seems like we haven't made much progress progress, even though we've gone through all this effort. Those are exact same questions that were raised almost a year ago, 7 or 8 months ago. And quite honestly, I think they're all soluble. There's a solution to them. And I think the one question would be, what solution works best to satisfy the traffic engineering people? So again, there are a couple of issues here. Number one, this project, you're the lead agency in regard to seeker. No negative declaration was made yet. We had a variance request for building development more than 10 feet back. The board is going to go back on it, but it was revoked because they didn't have seeker. So I don't know what
the IDA is waiting on your secret determination.
So again, I don't know whether or not it's feasible. I know this is an issue out there, but we're going to solve it. We've shown our thoughts of what we're willing to do to go to the payment of it and do everything we have to happen. Is whether or not to make that would be appropriate now, so to move forward the other things. This is an issue here, but it's an issue with a solution. Again, it's not something, if we don't get a solution for this problem, there'll be no project. Again, we get a stamp back from the city. So again, I know it's a little out of order. You normally do the net deck the same day that you give major site plan approval. In this case here, there are other elements taking place there, so I wonder whether that's feasible. Thanks.
I think here we are, our notes say that there's no action done today. The net deck is enough to impact us. So.
Yeah, and Dan, just to respond to your comments, I think both traffic engineering and our department want to find the right solution too. I think it's, I think as you mentioned, all of the issues have been brought up, and the majority of the design solutions have also been brought up. I think it's just what combination, the timing of it, as well as just what's going to have the best impact in relationship to other projects. I think currently there's not any other proposed improvements along Washington Avenue, as part of like city funded grant projects as well. So I think it's just trying to look at this on a scheduling end and just a combination of improvements. I think this is something we also want to figure out again. So I think, again, the way that the conversation left earlier today was just wanting to schedule a meeting. I think there have been multiple times that there have been meetings scheduled for this and have been canceled. So it's, again, trying to get to that point to resolve it and come to a finalized solution, which I think all parties involved would like to see that.
I don't know.
It sounds like, excuse me, Dan, it sounds like you guys probably have something, a discussion to have offline between you, and the city, correct?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Would you consider a conditioned negative declaration this evening?
No.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, I think our work is done as far as the board's concerned. But thank you. And I think it's time to get Al back.
Thank you, Martha.
As an administrative item, we have the possibility of doing some work at the workshop that might turn into a planning board meeting. And I think Zach wants to explain that we have a kind of light agenda coming up in August. Then if we do some work and have an actual meeting as part of the workshop, we might be able to even get away with not having an August meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Al. So the applicants for 163 Clinton Avenue which is the former schools and then former religious institution. Their approval, the conditional use permit approval to convert the building into a multifamily dwelling expired. And I think kind of just something where they forgot to request a renewal. So they're looking to submit an application to New York State Homes and Community Renewal for funding in order to fund said project. That application is due at the end of August. They requested to be put on, as soon as possible. I have noticed it with the newspaper for a public hearing for the 10th, which is the date of the public workshop. This is just to check with you all to see that if you are available and if that works for you. If not, that can be rescheduled to the 24th. But if that does work as a potential public hearing / public meeting and workshop, if the board members are comfortable with adding additional items, or if you would just like to keep it to that one public hearing item.
Any thoughts?
What other stuff?
Yeah.
If we added, it's gonna be tonight times 2 or. Right.
Yeah, so we only received, I think, 3 applications for this month that are new. So I think likely it would just be items that are recurring or returning, similar to 25 Delaware Avenue and 191 North Pearl Street, where it could be placed on the agenda in the event that all city departments have signed off on the application. But we could put new items on there as well, if you so choose, where we could do a workshop to begin with and then have the applicant present the same night. But I think that's up to all of you on what your preference is.
With that, just those 3 items plus the follow-up items, would that then allow us to have no meeting in August?
Potentially, I'd have to look into that. Is that the board's preference?
What do you think?
Let me say this. When I think it's our duty as a board to kind of move the projects down the pipeline and look at stuff. So if we need to stay until 9, 10, then that's our public service. It's uncomfortable, but we still have committed to do this work. So we only complain in jest. What I do think we can do is start to piggyback on the workshop meetings to handle some things that could be enforced and just do them as properly noticed and use the workshop portion as our internal working piece where we're introduced to new things and then advance some things that, since we're all together and have that quorum, if they're ready to be moved and we agree that we're ready to move them. So I think we can start to stagger like that. It might be helpful to prevent a meeting like tonight where we have a bunch of projects, 13 of them, on one agenda, where this could have been broken up into workshops, even though we didn't have them.
I'm sorry. I hear you. I don't disagree, but I want to check with our council to see if that's something we can do.
Yeah, I think, so it would definitely have to depend on whether the meeting notice for the workshop is properly noticed. And that the applicants, of course, have a meaningful opportunity to attend and be heard, and the neighboring properties are also have the opportunity to attend and be heard here or virtually. But I'll look into that further and get a definitive answer.
Yeah, because I think my concern is we have a structure that's been in place since before I became a member. And if we start setting a precedence of, oh, we can handle stuff earlier than planned on the schedule that's given out, October, November of the year before, then I think that we can go down a slippery slope and have these things here. You know what I mean?
Workshops are listed on together.
Yes, workshops are, but if we're handling board business during our workshops, like we're doing public hearings during our workshops, other things during our workshops, then it sort of gets rid of or muddles the difference between our workshops and our actual public meetings. That's just my concern.
It sounds like you better tell home Lisa to wait till the end of the month for the regular meeting.
We've done this before. We have had a couple of items in a workshop that where we had a public meeting or a public hearing and then moved to a workshop or the other way around. So we have done it before. Not often. It was once or twice.
Yeah, and if the board was acting on something, it would need to be noticed as a public hearing or public meeting, you know, depending on the application type as well. You know, if that's something where we want to make the distinction more clear, either in, you know, the agendas or the actual visual design of the presentation, I'm happy to do that as well. And if there's anything else that I'm not thinking of or mentioning, feel free to mention that now or follow up with me via email.
Okay, so for the next meeting, which will be the workshop, I'm anticipating that we will have, as part of the workshop, a public hearing, a public meeting, at least for some projects. And depending on the other ones, whether they're easy and short, we might be able to do them all within, you know, a decent time period. Am I hearing that right? From what we've talked about? As long as it's properly noticed, we might have a couple of items to follow up on. And we might have some new items that we can also just, you know, begin the process at that meeting. Sound okay?
To me it is, but I do want to make sure with the other board members, you know, Glenisa expressed that concern as well. And again, just checking with everyone else that there's more than enough time to reschedule that hearing if that's not something that works with the group. I'm also happy to notice items that are on the workshop agenda as well on the meeting agenda if that simplifies life, so that if the board feels that something can be moved quickly enough to approval, if it is a public meeting item, then that can happen as well.
I'm comfortable with that. If that's what works.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So any other items you want to bring up? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all for your patience. I really appreciate it. Apologies for all the technical difficulties this evening.